Hello and welcome to episode number 26 of Just Chillin'. I am one of your hosts, as you know, Sean Hoffman.
And I'm your other host, Andy Bell.
How goes it, buddy?
It goes well. It goes well, thank you. It's weird speaking to you only 3 days ago, but
Yeah.
kind of good as well in that I hadn't spoken to you for a fortnight prior to that, so it's all good. Yeah, first 3 days back from work sucks like hell. Sucks. 1,000 emails in my inbox. Work hasn't been done that should have been done while I was away. All the kind of shenanigans you return to work from. Warmer climes and margaritas feel like an eternity ago now.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm apart from that, I'm good. I'm good, thank you. How's your week?
Mark all
I was about to say,
mark all is
how's your week
read.
been?
Mark all is read and archive. And then if it's really important, they'll email you again. That's what
I've
I'd like to
yeah,
believe that I do, but no, I can't
I've done
do
a lot of that. I'm not gonna lie, mate. I'm not gonna lie. Where I'm CC'd, it's like, yeah. If I'm CC'd and it's not addressed directly to me, informational purposes only, I'll file it. No problem.
Nice. Nice. In my world, yeah, things are good, dude. I haven't done a whole lot in the last 3 days. As I've mentioned, I've been doing some outdoor projects. So like my house was built in like the 60s. And then since the people that we bought it off of had owned it for quite a while, and they did a lot of things, but the quality of the things that they did was not always the best. Um,
Got it.
so I think somebody in their family was like a construction, like a framer, somebody who just does the framing, not a finisher. So they did a lot of stuff, and it's all just like, yeah, if I put a piece of wood here and then just throw a couple screws in it, that'll support stuff, whether that's right or not. But they didn't do any like polish work of like maybe we should waterproof this or maybe we should do these things. So we have this like outside deck that like there used to be trees that grew through. Um, like just straight through the middle of the deck, and there was another one on the side. So like there's a hole in the middle and hole in, like an edge cut out on the side. But a couple years ago, we had those cut down because when you live at places like this, you're supposed to have at least 5 to 10 feet of defensible space, which means you have no vegetation or trees. So that way, it cuts back on fires. Blah blah blah. So we've had this giant hole in our deck that I've just covered up with a piece of plywood. Um,
Mhm.
and it was also carpeted, like an outdoor carpet on top of this deck, which is fantastic for water retention. Um, and so finally, I just a couple when I was talking the other day about I think the heat got to me, and I just started ripping up the carpet, and I'm like I'm patching this hole, I'm doing all this stuff, and it is just it's one of those things where it's like, well, I might as well do this at the same time. Well, I might as well
Mm.
just like redo the whole deck. I might as well sand the whole deck, stain the deck. Might as well just fix the holes. Well, and then it just escalates, and so I am knee deep. I'm like the Jedi in their web of lies. I'm just
Yeah,
further and further and further down this rabbit
yeah.
hole, and I don't know if there's any way getting out. But other than that, man, I've been good. You know,
I was about to say I have a love-hate relationship with decking, but I must admit I have a hate relationship with decking. It's something that Lucy always wanted, and when we did some refurbishments on the house and built an extension a few years back now, and she wanted decking at the back, and I'm like, oh, it's gonna, no matter how much you protect it, it's gonna go. It's got a shelf life. No, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And lo and behold, every year I'm finding myself. Well, I try to oil it as best I can.
mhm.
It's oiled to keep it great, but I've got pieces falling apart. I've got boards that need to be decking boards that need to be replaced. And it's like, fucking hell, just a hassle I don't need. I just should have paved the whole thing and forgotten about it. But no, so I feel you, brother, because decking is not something that I care too much about.
I keep joking and saying I'm just because I have some rotten boards and I'm pretty sure from the 1960s and were never protected, so they're a bit squishy and I can poke a hole through them with a screwdriver. And I'm like, I'm just gonna get like 6 gallons of resin and I'm just gonna pour it over this entire damn thing and call it a day. Like I am so over, like not over. I like the project, the other stuff I'm working on, but like rotten wood, it's like I I hate this. I hate this.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep sealing it. But I decided, kind of like my like reasons I like Star Wars and modeling and things like that. I'm like, you know what? I think I'm gonna go with like the weathered look. It doesn't need to be like perfect looking because I'm sanding all this paint off too. It's like then sealing it, and it's like, oh, it's okay if it looks a little, mangly. It's like that's the look. It's going for like the Star Wars weathered look. That's what I'm telling
The
myself.
shabby, I think that's what they call shabby chic.
Shabby chic.
Chic. Yep.
It's my lifestyle. It's my general demeanor. I'm shabby chic. It's like, you're halfway there. But yeah, that's me. That's all I've been up to. It's been cooler. We had some pretty big storms over the weekends, which is odd. We don't get a lot of big storms here, but we had some. And yeah, looking forward to the next weekend. Looking forward to not working. I wish I could retire.
Oh yeah, I'm with you there.
I'm a ways away though.
Yeah, likewise, and I'm older, but yeah, I'm still quite a few years away. Stuff needs to be paid for, and I don't have the money. I don't have a sugar daddy somewhere that could look after me and pay those and bankroll my lifestyle for me. Unfortunately, no. It's been a slow three. Well, I say slow. I say it's a hectic 3 days, but it's all been work, which is a bit bit miserable.
It's not been worth talking about.
No. I mean, I haven't even picked up anything in the news. I don't know about you. I mean, it's I don't really want to go into world politics again, but I would say since we spoke, the evening after we spoke, England, one of the countries of the United Kingdom, the one that I live in, we're in the final of the Euro Championship. So all of the European countries get together and have a soccer or a football match, and we were in the finals, and we lost. So that was kind of depressing. I mean, it takes a lot to get through to the finals in the first place, and we should be reasonably happy like that. But as usual, we're whinging Brits or whinging Poms, as the Aussies say, and we expected more of ourselves, even if it was unrealistic. So that was good fun for about I would say 2/3, 3/4 of the actual game itself, until Spain scored the winner. So that made an interesting Sunday night. But apart from that, mate, I haven't done anything or learnt anything in the news in the last 3 days. Yourself?
I don't think I've learned or gotten any news, but I did get something and delivered to the house that you already know about, but I can share on the podcast. And that is, I got not one, but I got 2 copies of the Ahsoka comic. Issue number 1, but the variant covers with Shin and Balin on it, and they look awesome. Like they're freaking.
Honestly, they look like us. Honestly, it's like we were made. I mean, I think Shin's beard is a little bit shorter than yours.
A smit, not a lot, but
yeah.
Like the thing that's bad about it is it's almost motivating me. It's like, dude, I should do a costume for Celebration, but then like do it in the style of the comic where it's like all black and white and it's kind of like cell shaded. It's like, oh, I do not have time for that. But
mate, let's just wear t-shirts.
All right, I'll think about it. We'll see.
So what we're going to do in the advert? Sorry, there's a couple of things I have done. I don't want to go into too much. I don't want to go into. I mean, we normally then go into what we've seen, what we've read, what we've listened to. One shout out. I rejoined the guys over at or the team, sorry, over at Star Wars Spelt Out this morning to give my immediate reaction and to the latest episode of the Acolyte. That was great. I hadn't spoken to those folks for 2 weeks, so it was great to catch up with them, with Josh and Catherine in particular. That was good fun. And when it comes down to watching, reading, and listening, I haven't done an awful lot because, again, I've only really had, if you exclude the football night, I've really only had 2 nights. So I've caught up on The Boys and caught up on Game of Thrones. Not Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, sorry. Which are both of them very, very good. House of the Dragon in particular is excelling itself this season. It's very, very good. Very, very good indeed. And that's it from me, mate.
I thought you said your idiot reaction at first. It's like, oh, I was on Star Wars Spelled Out to give my idiot reaction. It's like, oh,
I probably did say that. I mean, I struggle with words at the best of times anyway. But to be honest with you, it's probably more of an accurate description of what I do on that show.
It's like, dang, it's not that bad. You're not that bad. I saw it's funny. It's like, oh, immediate. Got it. My listening comprehension is not the best. But dude, I haven't really listened. I haven't watched really anything. I finally started catching up on all the podcasts that I was avoiding. Catching up with our friends. And one of the things that I want to do before I was hoping to do before we talk about the finale of the Acolyte was inspired by our good buddies over at High Potion. I thought it'd be cool to take a character quiz, but on Star Wars, there's a quiz that says like, which Acolyte character are you? And if you're down, I already have it pulled up. So it's kind of hard to shut me down.
Yeah.
Up, so
no. I love this. Is this the stuff that they do randomly on? Every now and again on StarWars.com.
Yeah. It's on
cool.
StarWars.com. It's like, which Acolyte character are you? So the way I figured we'd do it is we'll go through one question at a time. I got them both pulled up. I got them two separate tabs, and we can just both answer the same questions and see where it puts us.
Okay.
All right. So question number 1 is, what is your ideal job? Your options are chef, teacher, politician, or IT guru.
I would say chef.
All right.
What about yourself?
Chef? I would probably be an IT guru just because.
Just because
that's kind of what I do a little bit. I like the idea of being a chef, but I think it'd be better like a professional chef, because then I just really hate cleaning up, and I don't like doing it in my house. But if I had a kitchen somewhere else I could go in, I would think I would love that. That would be fun.
Yeah.
The next question: how do you handle conflict? Options are head on, I prefer to avoid it, I try to see both sides of the issue, I follow the rules.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty dogmatic. I'd say head on.
See the way I see, I'm terrible at these kind of things because I'm always like, well, does it mean like physical conflict or like an argument? Because an argument, I'm probably the reason. I'm head on because I'm probably the reason it's an argument in the first place. But if it's like, oh, there's a physical confrontation, I'll probably be like, well, let's talk this out.
Oh, you don't. Yeah, but you didn't have a fifth option, which was to run away. In which case, I'd have chosen that.
Well, I think it says I prefer to avoid it. It was one of the options there. It's like, well,
oh, okay.
So you're head on, and I think honestly, I'm taking it as however I'm gonna say head on as well.
Okay.
All right. How would you describe your best friend? Options are: I try to avoid attachments, someone who listens to my wisdom, small but mighty, or I make friends wherever I go.
That's really random, those answers.
Yeah.
How would you describe your best friends?
Yeah.
Is that...
I try to avoid attachments, someone who listens to my wisdom, small but mighty, I make friends wherever I go. Yeah, it's like they don't answer the question really.
I would say small but mighty, and and the reason why I'm saying that is I'm saying that in the context of my friends. I have a small friendship group, but
That's fair.
it's a meaningful.
But it's
I,
not. I have small friends in stature, small statured friends. It's you have
I
a
have
small group of
I'm
tight friends.
yeah. I was going to say I'm not friends with an army of I don't know
Ewoks.
Ewoks or something. I'm saying that I have a small group of friends that I would give everything for. That's if
Alrighty,
that makes sense.
it does make sense. I'm gonna put I make friends wherever I go. That's what I'm gonna
Cool.
because I don't know. It just you sometimes just answer them. It's like it feels right. Someone who listens to my wisdom does not. It's not not me. I try to avoid
Yeah.
attachments. It's like, oh man, I jump straight into attachments. It's like the whatever the opposite of a comitophobe is. That's me. I'm all over that. Which planet from the series would you most want to visit? Coruscant. This is Coruscant with the smaller temple before they made it bigger. So Coruscant, Brindok, uh, Olega, or Kofar. I have to look up what Olega is. Which one is that?
Where is the where is the where is the um where is the Cortosis island? Where what island, what planet is that?
Is that is dude? I am drawing a blank.
I think it. I think it becomes. It's not Brendark. Brendark is the one where the witches come from.
Witches live, and Kofar's where everybody got wrecked.
Yeah,
with Kelnaka.
So Coruscant for obvious reasons. What's the last one?
Coruscant, Brindok, Olega, and Kofar.
Oh God, none of them then. Okay, let's say. Is it live or visit? Does it say? Sorry.
Visit. And Olega's the one where Torben was and he got killed. That's where he was taking the Barrage Valve. That's an interesting one. I don't think the one with Cortosis is an option. But looking at the picture, Olega looks very pretty.
I would go to where the Wookiees are, but I would stay. Sorry, where Kelnaka is. Although because I reckon that would be a little bit like I don't know, visiting a rainforest and be in awe of the majesty of a big rainforest. Although I'd probably need a guide or something to keep me away from the nasty bugs.
Yeah, you want like a safari tour of like the jungle. You don't want to like go live there.
No.
All right. So you're going Kofar. I'm gonna say Brindok. I think that'd be, I don't know, something about it. Go and walk around the ruins and the witch stuff, the mining stuff. I don't know. It just seems like a cool place to check out. Okay. I want to hear like the voices and the ladies singing and stuff. And I want to see what's in that well. See like if it affects, or whatever the Virgins is and all that. But we can get into that. All right. What's your favorite creature or alien from this series? I don't even have to ask you, but okay. So the options are the Skura, which let me see what that is. Oh, that's the little creatures, the little. I think our friends over at the Canto Bite Dispatch called them like the little ball sack elephant things.
Okay, got it.
Yeah,
they're not my favorite.
Then there's Kelnaka the Wookiee. Then there's Senator Chewant the Abanetto, or Basil the Tracker.
It's got to be Kelnaka.
Yeah, I don't even know why I asked.
Basil, close second, but Kelnaka.
I like I'm picking Basil because he reminds me of one of my cats, Scoop, who is constantly, we call it using his sniffer. So he's always just kind of like sitting on a chair, just sniffing everything like openly in the air.
Excellent.
Yeah. What's your reaction when you feel betrayed? Options are: I make sure it doesn't happen again. I never forget my grudge. I try to forgive and forget. I can be a little cautious in the future.
The latter. I can be a little cautious in the future. I try not to dwell on stuff, but I am mindful. Life's too short, man.
I think I'm in the same. If I was saying my past self, I would say I make sure it doesn't happen again. But life's too short. I don't want to say I don't care. It's like whatever. Like I try to be a little more cautious in the future as well. Like,
Yep.
What draws people to you? I'm strong. I'm sensitive. I'm compassionate. I'm focused.
I would like to think it's sensitive and or compassionate. I'd say compassionate. I'd like to think so anyway. I give a toss about people I care about. I'd like to think that.
So is that compassionate or is it compassionate? I think I'm gonna pick the same one because I'm sure as hell not strong.
Compassionate.
Focus.
No.
Probably my biggest weakness. And honestly, if I'm sensitive versus I'm compassionate, I think I'd struggle to know the difference between the two of those. But I think compassionate feels more correct for me.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we are on number 8 of 10. What Star Wars food would you want to try? Jedi rations, spice creams, noodles, or blue milk?
Spice creams, because it intrigued me because the kids were gagging for spice creams in episode 3, and for a kid to be excited about a food stuff, it's got to be pretty good, right?
And plus, I think StarWars.com had that recipe. How to make your own spice creams, and it's like that looked really good. I don't remember what was in it, but like just the picture. But I'm gonna pick because I've been really craving them recently. I'm gonna go with noodles. That's because I could go for a big bowl of like Momofuku noodles or something right now, or ramen. Oh my god, I'm looking forward to going to Japan and getting ramen. Awesome. All right, 9 out of 10. Which Acolyte character would you most want to be friends with? Jecki, Vernestra Rowe, Pip, or Who Needs Friends? Question mark.
Jecki, without a doubt.
Dad,
I think she'd be a riot. I think she'd be a riot. I really do. I think she'd be. I mean, she's very stoic, but there's a sense of art. Or sorry, there was. Rest in peace. She's got a wicked sense of humor. Absolutely awesome.
I like her humor. I like the dry.
Yeah, exactly.
The dry humor and not afraid to like expose that to. I enjoy it. Jecki's my answer as well. Definitely not Vernestra Rowe. All right. Final question. What's the most important quality you look for in a partner? Loyalty, curiosity, wisdom, or a pleasant smell?
Sorry, can you repeat those, please? I can't believe that a pleasant smell is an option. But yeah. But sorry, what are the 3 other options? Not the last one.
Loyalty, curiosity, wisdom, or a pleasant smell?
Curiosity.
I think that is my answer as well. Because I mean, loyalty is good, but like loyalties, that's like also
loyalty
that could be taken too far.
Loyalty is also earned. It's also it's a bit like respect. It's one of those things that you don't expect loyalty. It's earned. And
I'm not looking for an acolyte.
That's exactly, and in my mind, that's something that you earn from someone else. It's not about the other person.
I'm genuinely shocked by the results here. If you had to guess, who do you think your character is going to be? I'm putting you on the spot, but just shot in the dark. If you had to guess,
Soul or Kelnaka.
Your answer is if you had a sister, her name would be Osha because you're a real May. Your focus.
Oh, a May. Oh, wow.
You're May. Your focus determines your reality. You can't forget your past, but you're determined to do what you can to change your present by taking action. Although you may have some regrets about how you behaved in your youth, you've certainly learned many lessons in the years since.
That's kind of cool. I'll take that. I'm May.
And mine is the exact same. I got May as well. It's like it didn't have me at first when it's like, oh, I'd be May. It's like, are you sure about that? But then I read like the, your focus determines your reality. It's like, oh, you may have some regrets about your past. Like I do, but I've
I'm
learned.
okay with that. Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
all right,
I'm okay with
like,
that. That was good
fair.
fun. Thank you, High Potion, for letting us plagiarize your idea.
Yeah.
Thank you, boys.
All right. Well, that's all I had. I haven't learned anything, watched anything. I haven't really done anything since.
No,
then,
that's cool.
so.
Dude, it's only been 3 days, so I didn't expect it to be a particularly. And we broke all records on Sunday as it was. So, do you want to talk a little bit of Alkalyte, or even Acolyte?
We can talk either one. We can talk about either one, like the Alkalyte prescription medication, or we can talk about the Acolyte TV show.
Let's talk about the Acolyte TV show.
All right, we can do that.
So, I thought we'd talk about the app and then kind of talk about the episode itself first, and then think about maybe the future, but also wrap up our thoughts on the series. What did you think? Top level, what do you think of? High level. Sorry, what did you think of this week's episode, the finale?
Just as a super high level, some takeaways. I think some of the obvious ones. The space battle, or the space ring chase, the battle, whatever you want to call that. That was sick. I loved it. That was all of my criticisms about like the starship CGI in the past. I feel like they weren't the same. Like I didn't have the same criticisms for this episode. That scene was pretty cool. Definitely some cool, like the ships are still kind of interesting how they do that, but I thought that was neat. The CGI looked a lot better. The lightsaber battle with Saul and Chimera, thought that was really cool. I thought they did some really neat stuff with the choreography. Just it wasn't as brutal as some of the other ones were, like just the ferocity of it. It was definitely much more of a skills and kind of a mental game. You could see the kind of the mental game going on and like the clarity that Saul had. I thought that was really neat. I thought I am surprised at, like, this is just very high level. I am surprised they were able to wrap all of it up. Like for the most part, like generally they were able to wrap up like the storyline, and interested how they took some things. I think there was just some brutal, like this. I think this episode, along with some other parts, had some, like the Saul dying. I thought was they were not afraid to pull punches and kind of push, I think, the limits of not the violence, but just kind of the lingering cameras and just kind of the intensity of some things. And I thought that was refreshing, but it wasn't like vulgar, I guess. It wasn't like graphic or like war porn kind of stuff. So I thought it brought some of the emotional and stuff into that. But yeah, I thought the episode was like well shot. There's definitely a lot of things that are still open and up in the air. I think there's also some things that were like, I feel like there were some things that were done that, like, did they have a purpose? Like, so specifically the like, I don't need to know why he did it, but I'm curious of why they use that as the means to an end. Like the whole Basil sabotaging the ship thing.
I didn't understand that at all. We were trying to work it out earlier on with Josh and Catherine, and it was kind of like, didn't understand what he's doing there, because he seemed to be the only one that knew who was who and what was what. The only conclusion that I could reach at that moment in time was that he overheard May and Soul talking, and realized that Soul has been a bit of a douche. But then at the same time, Josh is suggesting that maybe they never had that conversation while we saw the flashback of what really happened,
Hmm.
which filled all the gaps. It seems to have just literally episodes 6 and 8 are sequential, like
Yeah.
immediately. There's no gap in, but there was no conversation because May was already planning to escape her bonds. I don't know, mate. It just seemed weird. It seemed weird, and it was what there are one or two moments, not but question mark moments,
Yeah.
that I found in this episode that I didn't understand, and that I'm gutted that it needs explaining to me. And one of them is Basil. Um,
It's one of those things.
when you consider that only in episode 6
Yeah.
he was stepping on May's toes, and and pushing her around because he'd sussed that it wasn't Osha, it was May. And then
Yeah.
this week he's kind of sabotaging the ship so that Sol can't chase May. It was weird. It was really
It's
odd.
one of those things that like I feel so there's this term that we use in like the developer world where like you're looking at somebody else's code or whatever, and it's called a code smell, where it's like there's nothing explicitly wrong or bad about it, but there's like hints of things that are like lead you to believe that something is off. And I feel
Yeah,
like they're kind of like a smell, like a code smell with this episode of like I feel like I can see the fingerprints of an outside force like pushing for certain story beats so they have connection points for future work, whether that's comics, books, or whatever. Like the stuff with Basil, the only thing I could come well, I agree with what you said about I don't think that conversation ever happened. I think it was just a direct continuation almost.
right.
Um and the Basil stuff, it's almost like, are we going to learn more? Is there going to be a connective tissue somewhere, book or comic or short or whatever, about Basil's species or Basil himself that kind of goes into maybe they because I kept going back and forth like maybe they know more than they think they do, like than it comes across, or maybe they're like force sensitive, like or future seeing kind of thing, because at times they
Yeah,
made him seem like really basic and kind of primitive, I think is the word I'm looking for. It's like, oh, are they just like a hound dog, or are they
like
actually
a
like
bloodhound. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, or are they more higher intelligence than it's like, oh, I'm sabotaging the ship because you're gonna kill this individual, and I don't know, like there's some reason why they don't want that to happen. Like it, and there's other pieces of the story that feel like, oh, I feel like it could have been like this tight buttoned up thing, but then you see all these like loose threads that they purposely kind of spun out to be connective tissue for other projects. And I think all the projects have that kind of stuff, but this series, I think as a whole, or even this episode, felt very explicit with some of them. And that's not a positive or a negative. It's just, I felt like I saw them more clearly than I think I ever have.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's just what my justification for it is. Like, man, that was an odd choice to connect two pieces of story. You could have done it simpler. So why did they pick that? It feels like it's like a intentional loose end.
Yeah, and I quite like, and that's something that I've actually quite liked about this series is that I was saying to the guys this morning, I've never watched anything that has made me speculate so much
Hmm.
in the in new Star Wars, um, and that's a good thing. Um, do I think that the series is the best thing I've ever seen? No, but it is one of the most interesting things I've ever seen. Um, and I'm more than happy to explain myself to anyone that disagrees. And and like I said this morning again, um, of those people that I respect in our community, and whose opinions I respect because they are themselves inclusive and kind and respectful people. Some of our friends haven't enjoyed it as much as others, and I respect
Hmm.
that, and I'm okay with that. But from my perspective and from my humble point of view, I think it's one of the most interesting things I've seen for a while. And as you know, I don't have any fascination at all in the lore side of things and um, hereditary, no, the legacy of the Force and all that kind of stuff. I get kind of bored with that kind of narrative, or it becomes something that's so ethereal that, quite frankly, it doesn't. I like something a little bit more tangible, and as you already know,
Yeah, yeah.
the Any Man story, which is the reason why Andor in particular really really appeals to me. But this has left me really 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 wanting more, and like I said, the to you before, Leslie, I think, is so clever in her writing that every time she ties up a loose end, another one unravels, and I think that's really really clever. And for the most part, this week tied up an awful lot,
Hmm.
but she left, but also introduced a few loose ends for us to speculate. And so,
Yeah.
what I liked about it, and I thought was quite cute actually, and I have to say, I'm loving Leslie Headland at the moment. She's becoming my favorite troll at the moment. The way that she's um, carrying herself um, on social media and other platforms, I think is absolutely superb. And I tip my hat to her because there is an awful lot of hate out there. Some of it is, a lot of it is not justified in any way whatsoever. And the way that she's dealing with it, I think, is an absolute work of art.
Hmm.
Anyway, sorry, I'm going for a tangent. Sorry, but what I think is really, really clever is that she has finished a season that could be the series in its entirety.
Hmm.
It can end there, and then other parallel projects or associated media could actually plug in some of the holes or take it forward.
Well, 'cause that's
But what
exactly what
she's
it was
done
meant to be.
rather
Go ahead.
exactly, but what she's done rather expertly, and it goes back to the my point last week, which is I don't know where 180 million's been spent. I think I think that halfway, maybe three quarters of the way through filming this, she was told by executives, "This is pretty good. Let's stretch it out a little bit and
Hmm.
maybe use some of the content that you've got." So if it is standalone, great. I'm sad that it's over, but great. But I suspect there's more seasons, if not just one season to come, potentially with some of the content that purposely was cut from season one, that will a keep the series in its entirety a lot cheaper or a lot less
Hmm.
expensive to produce, but also that would need more investigation or more detail, which essentially will be, if you like, the new content that may well be produced. God, that's a really really complicated way of saying I think she's really clever, and whether it's one season or two seasons or more seasons, I think she set it up perfectly.
Well, and I think that setting out, that was the goal of this. Like, one, this is exactly what I wanted. This is what I've been begging for a long time. And you can
Yeah,
look at it, it's like this was Lucasfilm, Disney, whoever, putting another iron in the fire, because no matter how we try to spin it, the the Thrawn, Ahsoka, the Filoniverse stuff is going to have an end. It's going to have an end, and then that will be buttoned up. Andor has a definitive end, and then so you have to start putting things in irons in the fire. And this is a
yeah,
perfect example of, like, yes, it was a buttoned up story, but it's also a new starting point or jumping off point for new content. Whether that's, even if it's not the Acolyte series, it's other things around this time frame to start fleshing out these stories. We can't keep making Clone War shows. We can't make Ahsoka and Thrawn and the Mando verse. We can't flesh that out forever. Like, it's going to have a definitive end, and
mm.
so you got to start sowing seeds in the fall, so that way in the spring you have a plant. You have
Yeah,
crops
yeah,
in,
yeah.
in the springtime, and that's
Yeah,
exactly what this is, and I like it.
yeah. I mean, you're talking about the Filoniverse. The Filoniverse not only has an end; it has a finite end. Um, it's also of characters that we know and within a timeline that we know. Yeah, there are massive gaps in that timeline, namely
Yeah.
between the end of the OT and the beginning of the sequel trilogy. But it's within a timeline that we're familiar with. And what I respect about this more than, and don't get me wrong, the acting has been phenomenal. I thought the writing has been smart in some areas, not so much in other areas. I thought the production values, for the most part, have been fantastic. But what I respect about this season, this series, the most, is simply what it is. I respect it for
Hmm.
what it is, which is something new, something that's outside of. I was talking about it this, earlier on today, the 60 to 80 year timeline that is the Skywalkers. It's a big, expansive, beautiful galaxy. Um, I can't believe that the history of the galaxy should only be recorded within that 60 to 80 year time frame and
Hmm.
around a family called the Skywalkers and a family called the Palpatines. That's an absolute nonsense in itself when you consider the very, very young age of life on Earth, let alone the gazillion years when it comes down to the age of existence and sentience within that particular galaxy. So I just respect it for being different.
Hmm.
And being that if all it serves is a stepping stone for other creators to do their own thing without the shackles of the Skywalkers, without the expectations of what things should be, because that's how they were.
Yeah.
Um, it's done its job for me, and I hats off to everyone that were involved in that production because, like I said, not amazing in my mind, but bloody hell, it's really bold and brave.
Yeah. I mean, because imagine just even within our history of humans on Earth, imagine if you tried to say, "Oh, the only important story is like two or three families during the 60 to 80 year period." It's like, no, it's a whole
Yeah,
galaxy.
yeah,
Like, yeah, the Skywalker saga is amazing. That's what we all fell in love with. But it's like, let's not pretend like they're the only conflict that could ever happen in this galaxy across the
no,
eternity of time. It's like it's always
no.
gonna be ups and downs and whatever. And I really like this show. Um, I think it has some interesting rewatchability that I think is different than all of the other shows. And I know that's probably a hot take for a lot of people because not rewatchability like I think other Star Wars is, where it's like, oh, I really enjoyed this. Let me rewatch it and put it on repeat. This has a let's rewatch it and see, knowing what we know now, we can watch it differently and get something from it that's different every time. I like that um, because I don't know. I'm tempted to do a full rewatch of the series more so than
I'm
I
doing
am
it.
other
I'm I,
shows.
I'm doing it, and I'll be perfectly honest with you. I'll be perfectly honest with you. It's up there at the moment for me. In my favorites.
Yeah.
Um, I don't think I've left. I don't think it's any secret. I didn't like Kenobi. Or I didn't. Sorry. Kenobi was fine. It was fine. But it didn't light my world.
Yeah.
Um, um, my
It
opinion of
didn't take risks. Yeah.
Mandalorian season 3. It's this is up there at the moment, and there are only 2 seasons that I've rewatched over and over again. Sorry, there's only one. I mean, I've watched Andor 4 or 5 times now.
Hmm.
It's trivial compared to someone like Catherine, but I've watched it 4 or 5 times now, maybe six times. It's one of those ones that every time I watch it, it's like rewatching Breaking Bad for me. It's that powerful. I've seen Mandalorian season 1. Next, I would say, sorry, the most next, because at the time it was all we had.
Hmm.
It's all we had. We didn't have anything else, on the slate. So I watched it a couple of times, but I haven't revisited anything else. I have not revisited anything, including Ahsoka, despite the fact that I had a good time with Ahsoka, because obviously, if you take the Thrawn stuff, which I know our buddies, they some of our buddies love the Thrawn piece. I found Balin and Shin stuff so fascinating. I haven't even rewatched that either. So no, but for me, I'll definitely this weekend. The end of the catch-up week at work. It's going to be relatively quiet. There's a few jobs to do around the house. I am looking forward to burning through the whole series in one
Nice.
season. Sorry, in one.
To shift gears a little bit, I feel like I can now that I wanted to save some judgment and stuff, like some of my more extreme statements till the end of the series, and I will say, my biggest takeaway from this season or this series or whatever you want to call it, I believe that I feel like this is the best lightsaber fighting we have in all of Star Wars. I know some people are like, oh, it's not better than the prequel. It's not better than this. Not to me, hands down, this is the best lightsaber choreography and fighting of all of it.
I wouldn't disagree with you. It's certainly the most visceral.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the points I made this morning was that I've listened to, you know how verbose I can be sometimes. The guys over at Thank the Maker podcast actually summed it up really simply and perfectly for me, which I shared this morning, and I'll share it with you now. Which was, if you look at the Phantom Menace, if you look at the battle with Maul, if you look at Duel of the Fates and the battle between Obi-Wan and Anakin, they are phenomenal lightsaber fights. Lightsaber fights, but they're very balletic, and they're very kind of parry riposte. They are striking each other's sabers. They're aiming for the saber, strike, parry,
a lot of flourishes and stuff as well.
Yeah. Whereas this, they're actually trying to kill each other.
Well,
and I know the purpose of those fights in the prequels and indeed the sequels as well. When you consider Kylo and Rey when they fight and when they're fighting together, I appreciate that they are trying to kill, but it's so balletic and so beautiful. Sometimes it loses its savagery or its meaning by being spectacular. It's so spectacular that it's kind of not getting to the point. And the point being is I want to kill my opponent. And the point I made to the guys this morning was that they're trying to hack off limbs. They're trying to kill each other. They're not aiming for each other's saber. They're aiming for each other. And and the guys over at, I thank the guys that Thank the Maker for making it so simple for me to understand and then agree with as well. So I haven't really thought about it in the same context as you, but yeah, fair play if that's the conclusion you've reached.
Well, I mean, if I'm brutally honest with myself, it's like I love the prequels. I love the Star Wars films, but Duel of the Fates carries that too. The reason we all see this so fondly, it is a great fight, but the music is
everything about it. It's like I said, it's ballet. It's a ballet. It's a dance. It's a dance, and I don't mean that in the ways that one or two negative people would interpret it. It is a beautifully choreographed dance. What we saw today and what we saw in episode 4, absolutely phenomenal. And like I said, visceral, fleshy. And Catherine quite rightly said, well, isn't that the point? That's the point when our buddy Yord, before he's killed, he says this guy doesn't fight like us. He doesn't fight fair. He doesn't follow the rules. And if you think about classic sword fighting, you'd think of the old, saluting each other before we go ahead and have a scrap with our sabers. And it's not like that. It's very, very different, and I like it. It's like a. I think you made the point either last week or a couple of weeks ago. It's like a street fight, and I love it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, I think my other takeaway, kind of separate from the series. It's a series, but it's also Huge kudos to the actor who plays Soul.
Oh,
Um, for
oh,
not speaking English before coming in, and then being mostly, because I know everybody says like, oh, he learned English. It's like, I still stand by. I don't think he did. I think he learned the lines and then like was able to emote them, and just like that's such an incredible feat, and like I think that's amazing. And I do think, because it kind of this kind of leads into one of my things with the episode, because I know everybody's very much on the like Soul is a weirdo, a creep, or just a general piece of shit. It's like, I do think that things he did were shitty. I think some of his intentions or where he's coming from, I think fell victim to maybe the way that lines were read or emoted, and maybe didn't come across 100%. Like, it came off weirder than what it was intended to, or what
well,
his intentions
maybe.
were.
Well, maybe, just maybe, it was intentionally meant. We were intentionally meant to feel that way about him
Mhm.
after we had the second flashback,
Yeah.
and it was kind of where I felt last week. Oh my God, Soul! You know, you've this is not natural. What you're feeling here, it's not. It's a bit stalky.
Yeah.
It's a little bit wrong what you're thinking here. But when this week it was kind of explained with the whole idea of this concern around the Virgins and
Mhm.
how the impact that will have, which only they didn't go too deeply on, but that was his drive. It wasn't so much that OSHA was the driver, which is what I thought last week. It was the Virgins that was the driver
Mhm.
for him, and so I can kind of lay off him a little bit. I do. I think the Jedi as an institution is completely screwed up, but I can lay off him as an individual a little bit.
Oh, dude, when the senator was ripping in the Vernestra, I was
Oh,
like,
mate.
this dude gets it. It's
Well,
like,
he was our voice. You know, he was our voice. I mean, we all expected. Shall I go through the list? I mean, I've got 2 pages this week, mate, not just the one. But
go
I
go
mean
for it.
that's one of the things I was going to pick up. So we start with the heavy breathing. You know, and that was the indication that Josh, or that's where Josh suggested to me, and I then had the realization the flashback was just for us. It wasn't. It wasn't
Yeah.
for. It wasn't. It literally has carried on where it left off in episode 6. Um, Obviously, you see Osha with an awful lot of the abilities that she learned from the witches, where she's controlling Khmer. When she's got the helmet on, he tries to enter her mind palace. I mean, that's the best way I can explain it. He tries to enter her mind palace, whether it's something that is specific to the witches, whether it's something that is, who knows, maybe she's in the world between worlds. Oh, that would shake up some of the haters. But anyway, wherever they are, when they're having that conversation, she very much takes him over. But he manages to get himself back and takes the helmet off her.
I did think
Um,
it was interesting that they didn't show anything besides him in that like dark world. They never
yeah,
they never showed what else was in there with him or what he was doing there. And so I thought that
yeah.
was very intriguing. Like, what's one of those threads of like, oh, well, we're gonna find out what that means at some point.
And she talks about, and he talks about that she can see the future when the helmet is off and they're conversing with each other. He clearly says, you know, you can see the future. You're looking ahead, which always suggests that she really is a lot more powerful than we originally suspected. And there's going to be some haters for that. However, I want to remind everyone that she was already very strong with the Force. She lost it over time. She got it back when she's with her sister in
Well,
episode
and,
2.
she's
She
a
gets it back.
split of the same person. Like, you're already like on a
Exactly.
different playing field than everybody else.
Exactly. Um, we return to Brendok. We go, you know, the guys are going to. That surprised me. That surprised me that we are going back to Brendok. I kind of assumed that. And again, this is my misunderstanding or my misinterpretation of the meaning of the flashback. I thought that was Sol talking to May, but I think that was for our purposes, as I said, not that transaction between the two of them. And one of the things that I didn't understand why they went straight to Brendok. It's like, well, surely, you've got May with you. May knows where Camir's bolt hole is. She knows where that is. But again, I didn't realize that they hadn't had that conversation, and she hadn't at all warmed to him yet. So she sure as hell wasn't going to tell him where they were. So assuming that he was going to go to Brendok, and from what I made out of the reason why he did that was to A, attract Osha, and B, to bring the Jedi there, so that he could prove the divergence, and, if you like, explain his actions of 16 years ago by proving divergence. Little bit like Torben did, albeit the wrong way, during the flashback. Interestingly, that he still thinks he's right, and he's still blaming May. You set your place on fire. It's like, yeah, none of that would have happened if you guys hadn't interfered. But anyway, I still find it strange that he's still somewhat blind, and that he still thinks he was doing the right thing. Interesting that he spelled it out to them that they're not twin sisters, you're a virgins.
And Kymir noticing it and kind of doing the, well, wait a minute, come again? Because he was standing there listening.
Yeah. And then May escapes. She manages with Pip's help, or with the rebooted Pip's help, manages to escape. She gets into the escape ship, or the whatever the fighter is that's attached to Sol's main ship, and gets away. From an aesthetic point of view, I found the helmet a little bit goofy. It was very much perched on the top of her head. Yeah. But that's again an aesthetic thing. But it kind of looked a little bit goofy. I mean, a lot of work went into that helmet, but it just was perched a little bit strangely. Anyway, and then I wrote down, what is Basil's gig? First he's giving May shit in episode 6, and now he's giving Sol shit by tearing his ship up. I didn't understand that at all, and I'm just going to have to accept that I'm never going to be able to understand it. I love is it Morg or Moog or
Mog?
Mog. I just wrote down, I love the dorky Jedi. I love him. He's so beautifully dull that he just makes me laugh every time he opens his mouth. Then we have the meeting with the senator, and like I said, I love the senator's point of view. I was expecting that person, like many people, for that senator to be not evil, but the very evil, to be part of the plan, to be part of the ongoing plot against the Jedi. But he is simply a senator with a specific point of view, which, quite frankly, I agree with, and I think he was speaking on behalf of many of us that were saying, guys, you're not regulated. You're not regulated here. You do have tendencies to not be able to control your emotions, and yet you yield this massive amount of power. And we need a little bit of control here, because you're like a ticking time bomb, as he was proven later on in the episode. Venestra, I haven't warmed to her at all throughout the
I don't
season.
think you're supposed to.
I don't think I'm meant to. I've just written down here, Venestra's an ass, an arrogant ass. And then, of course, we go back to the planet that I can't keep forgetting its name, where Osha and Camir, they leave, and we see who I assume is Plagueis, or everyone is assuming is Plagueis, which is dope. He certainly doesn't. Sorry.
No, go ahead. No, I want you to finish your thought on that. Go ahead.
Well, no, he doesn't look like a mun, but if you look at some of the concept art for Darth Plagueis, that say he is a mun, he looks very familiar to more of the decrepit versions of Plagueis that we've seen.
Yeah.
Very, very similar. Very, very similar.
So that's a hot take that I'm currently kind of sitting in right now of like, I thought it was cool. I do think it's cool. It's like, holy shit, we got to see him. But in terms of like the story in this season, it's like him seeing him, and then also the Yoda cameo at the end of like it just felt forced in a way of like, why? Like, why? I'm not upset about it. It's just like it didn't serve the story at all, especially
Well,
Plagueis.
well,
But
no. Well, I was going to say. I was going to say the other way around. I was going to say the other way around. But let's put a pin in that because I've got many questions when we talk about what the future looks like.
yeah,
But it's there. It has to be Plagueis. If it's not,
yeah,
it could be anyone. To be honest with you, because let's face it, Plagueis' timeline is at the moment part of the legacy timeline. It's not canon at the moment.
yeah,
Which is something I want to bring up at the end, if that's okay. Another aesthetic thing that bothered me was seeing the size of. We got to see awful lot more of Kamir's ship, which I felt in the first couple of episodes reminded me an awful lot of the Sith infiltrator,
yeah,
like an early, deconstructed version of the Sith infiltrator, which was great. However, now that we've seen an awful lot more of it, it's a massive ship with two piss tiny cockpits, which really threw me.
yeah,
Really threw me. I mean, the size of the ship is enormous because you see them in perspective, crossing the walkway when the tide goes out to the ship, and it's huge behind them.
yeah,
And they get there, they get in it, and they're in two cockpits no bigger than an X-wing cockpit. And I thought that's really weird. Anyway, it's there. It doesn't. Does it change anything? No, of course it doesn't. It's just it's an aesthetic thing that I picked up on. Which is they arrive, or sorry, Soul and May obviously get there first. Soul hears the witches singing in the background. And then, of course, we get the saber fight. The saber fight, I thought, was, to your point, awesome. The only thing that I would add to that, to what you've already quite rightly said, is that I love that whole, and you can correct my pronunciation, is it Wakizami? Sorry, Wakizashi? The smaller of the two blades that a
oh,
shogun or a samurai would have. So you'd have the katana, and then you'd have the Wakizashi blade as well, the smaller blade, which
I just called it a
Kamir's
dagger.
is stored in the lower part of the main hill. I love that. I love
Yeah,
that. And there's two reasons why I love it. One is obviously the callback or the association with feudal Japan, which I'm on a roll with that at the moment, but also the callback to, and I think I talked to you about it a few episodes ago, the original Marvel comic series where Luke had to fashion his own dagger in order to
mm,
fight Luminara, the Dark Lady, and that for me was sick. It was, normally we see Jedi dual wield two identical lightsabers, where one is not biased over another, whereas this kind of arrangement where one is the main weapon and the other is the support weapon. I love that stuff, and I'm probably spending too much time talking about it.
so on that, I know there's been a lot of comparisons to kind of like the Japanese kind of swords. I I look at it like a slightly different. I see it as more of a scumbag thing, like similar to like a
Oh,
thief. Like it's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like it's like a hidden dagger up the sleeve, because whenever he would
Got
use it,
it.
it always like I have a lightsaber, haha, secret, yeah, got a knife in my boot, yeah. But like the
So it's
lightsaber,
like so it's like a shiv that you'd have in prison. I'm with you.
it's like, oh, I'm fighting
Is
it
it
off,
shiv?
secret, yeah, shiv, secret knife, yeah, stab you in the side. So it's like it goes to his kind of like scumbag, conniving, nature of like, oh, I'm fighting fairly, but I'm also he doesn't play by the rules. Haha, secret sword, bam, get you. Um, and I thought that was cool. So it is kind of like the Japanese feudal Japan kind of smaller dagger katana sword. But I also like the fact that it's hidden. It's not an Ahsoka dual wield. It's a intentionally hidden and concealed so he can bring it out in desperation or to gain an upper hand. Or and it's not
It's
the
a it's
also
a
it's not the
it's a
massive
means to fight dirty. I like that.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and that lends itself nicely to the way he fights in the first place, which again is more like a street fight or a brawl than anything else. Okay, no, I like that. Pip spits in OSHA's face. I thought that was a little bit funny, but I also a little bit disappointed. I kind of thought that OSHA, being a technical guru that she was, would have some sort of failsafe in place should Pip ever find himself or herself or themselves factory reset, that they would find their way back to their full consciousness. That never really happened. So one of those things. But I did find it funny when she was fighting her sister, and she just looks out to Pip and says, "Pip," calls their name. That they just spit on her, which I thought was a little bit funny.
So another hot take from I'm on him today now that the series is over. I like the Pip, and I thought that was funny too. But now that the season's over, I stand by kind of the belief that's like I think the show could have done without Pip. Like Pip could be completely removed.
Yeah,
And it didn't.
It didn't serve a purpose, really, did it?
The design. I think the design was too advanced for the time period, and like it doesn't fit for me. And I think you could just completely remove Pip from the like Peace and Love. I like Pip as a character.
It does feel like gratuitous merchandising there, doesn't it?
It feels like something you pick up at Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, we haven't seen anything yet, but yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm not quite sure of their purpose at the moment, because a multi-tool, a non-sentient multi-tool would have done the job, and a flashlight would have done the job for what that was actually required of it. But yeah, no, I'm with you. Listen, it's Star Wars. Let's squeeze in a few little cute things every now and again, whether they serve a purpose or not. Going back to the Japanese theme, and it's one thing that I talked about this morning because I felt really strongly, was the first time ever I noticed the music. The music has been incidental, which I guess is what background music in a series or any production should be. It shouldn't take over the production. But the music during this season hasn't been particularly memorable for me until today. And then when the two girls are fighting each other, I thought that it was very choral. It was very choral, but it was very Eastern choral. It wasn't like Duel of the Fates, which were very church choir kind of Latin kind of religious choral music. It was more. It was more. In my mind, it sounded akin to. I don't know if you've watched Akira, but an awful lot of the choral music in Akira are very, very high pitched Japanese choirs that are singing, and it reminded me an awful lot of that. And then subsequently, I got more invested, or I noticed an awful lot more of the music this episode more than any other. So on my rerun or on my rewatch over the weekend, I'm wondering if I can pick up an awful lot more. I mean, I didn't. In fairness, when I watched Andor, I didn't notice the subtle differences between the intros until the second or third rewatch. And in fact, I found that the funeral procession in the finale, I found it quite weird because it felt very English mining town brass bandy. I know what I mean. It's most mining towns in the UK have a a brass band that the miners used to contribute to or be members of. They were amateur bands, and they
Mhm.
were all brass. They were all brass. And that reminded me of that. And at the time, I didn't like it. And then it wasn't until the second or third rewatch that I realized, oh my God, this fits so well for the people that we're talking about. You know, the working people
Yeah,
that we're
yeah.
talking about that are in their best bib and tucker to pay respect to Martha. Um, Sorry, I'm going off at tangent, but you understand what I mean. And so
Yeah.
therefore, I'm really looking forward to the rewatch because, like I said, the music I thought was really really powerful.
And I
And
think
then
that's intentional. I think it's intentional because I think the whole
yeah,
series, 'cause I know there's been a lot of criticism of it, but I think the arrangement for this series as a whole is, I wouldn't say a masterstroke, but I think it's all very intentional. I think they did a very good job at it, especially on this last episode where you see it peeking through more. And I think it was intentional because this whole show has been, the arrangements kind of taken a back seat because music, like the arrangements and stuff, tell you how to feel in a certain moment. Duel of the Fates tells you, brings the intensity. And if there was a very front facing arrangement throughout this entire show, then we would understand some of the, it would lead too much in a certain direction.
yeah,
But
yeah, yeah,
with it
yeah,
sitting with it sitting kind of in the pocket, it's forced us to kind of like be unsure of like what
yeah,
feel, sitting with our emotions more of like what is happening, who are the good guys, who are the bad guys, what are the themes. And I think it's been genius in a lot of ways because, and I know some people don't like that, they don't like this like, well, why'd we get another flashback, I want to know like what's the order, who's this and the other, and that's intentional. You're supposed to
yeah.
not understand and feel uncomfortable with what is happening, why did this happen, and I think they did
And
chef's kiss.
who should I be rooting for? To your
Yeah.
point, who should I be rooting for? It's like, well, we don't know. It could
Shit's
be
more
anyone.
complicated than that. It's more
It
complicated
could
than
be
that.
anyone. I mean,
Yeah.
the only person that hasn't lied is the Sith apprentice. He's the only one that actually has told the truth all the way through this. Anyway, the to finish off my first page, I thought the when we revisit the fight between Khmer and Sol, I thought that last blade stroke was phenomenal, and it reminded me an awful lot of Rebels. So I'm talking about the piece where they're facing each other, and they do that very, very quick samurai-esque type of stare down,
Yeah.
and then quick run towards each other, quick blade strikes, and it's done.
It's very
There's not,
Kurosawa. Yeah.
yeah, exactly, exactly. And it reminded me of when Obi-Wan and Maul faced each other off at or faced off when they on Tatooine in Rebels, and I thought for a minute when both sabers were deactivated, I thought for a minute one of them was a goner, but it only
I thought so
happened
for
to
too.
be it only happened to be obviously the saber, Khmer's saber that had been busted up. But I genuinely thought that one of them was going to collapse, and that would be, or both of them would collapse, which would be very, very Kurosawa indeed.
Speaking of
But
that,
very, very cool.
can we, I forgot to mention during the lightsaber thing, can we just say, like, can I say like it was, I think that was a genius lightsaber battle. Not only, like, I think the biggest piece I took away from is like Saul was like on a next level, being very intelligent. Like when they were fighting and like they were moving like the blades back and forth. You see Saul, like, this is how I interpret it. You see Saul like remember that like the Cortos's helmet is like can disable it. So then he flips it back around and he's pushing the red lightsaber
Oh,
towards
that
his
was
helmet.
awesome! Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. That was,
I'm like he knows he's like he's trying to disable his saber. And then Kymir realizes it and he's like, oh shit. And then they kind of get flipped back around. That's like, oh, he's trying to use his helmet against him. And
yeah,
I think if it flips the tables on their head, it'd be like, oh, Kymir doesn't have this huge upper hand anymore. Saul's learned and is now using it against him. Like, it didn't come
yeah.
across explicitly, but it's like in that moment you're kind of watching. It's like, oh, that's how Saul's doing such a better job now. Is he's in a different headspace and he's using Kymir's like weapons kind of against him. I thought that was like really clever.
I'm glad you picked that up because I didn't talk about. I don't think we talked about it this morning, but I noticed it. I did notice it. It was kind of like, hang on a second, the blades are the wrong way around. They should be. Blue should be closer to Soul's face, and red should be
Yeah,
closer
like
to
they flipped him around. And
Rhea's
he was
face.
trying to like work
But they
him back
flipped him
around. It's like,
around.
ah,
Yeah, and that was really cool. The page two. Obviously, May wants him to confess. She doesn't want to take vengeance back out on Soul, despite the encouragement from Kamir. I've written it 3 times and across 2 pages. Soul still thinks he did the right thing! Exclamation mark. And it's at that moment there that I think he has some sort of, or I have some portion of sympathy towards Soul, because he explains that, girls, I did want to save both of you. It's because of you are this virgins, but we don't get to understand what a virgins is, which I guess is the gutting part for me, and why a virgins would mean that there's some sort of danger there.
yeah.
Because all I still keep thinking of is, guys, everything would have been fine if you just left them alone. And so a little bit more explanation as to why a virgins is so dangerous and unique, as to why they needed protecting, would for me have helped kind of explain his actions, maybe not justify, but certainly explain his actions. So a little bit, that's one of those. It's just those 2 parts. It's Basil sabotaging the ship, and the explanation of what the virgins is, and the importance and the magnitude of what a virgins is would have really helped me.
To me, I interpreted that as like, because I felt sympathy for Soul as well, like, because I see where he's coming from. Like, I truly do. Of like, he believed he was doing the right thing, but like the fuck up. Like, yes, they fucked up by coming in on the planet and like doing all that. But it's like, to me, his true fuck up was accidentally killing Anasea. Like, the overreaction, the tension in the moment, and things like that. But I believe his concerns were real, and not because like, oh, he had a weird affection for Osha, or like weird Jedi overstepping. Like, I don't interpret it that way. To me, it's like he has information that these two created by the Virgins. Like, to me, it's like similar, like walking into like somewhere and being like, hey, we have this like enriched uranium over here, and we have this like means to compress it over here. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. We're like 1 step away from like a big deal happening. And like, yeah, they haven't explained it yet, but I think that, to me, that's what his headspace is.
And Oblivion. Yeah.
And it's like this thing that you guys have done is proof that like there's like, and like then he made mistakes of like, okay, it's in the wrong hands. We need to control this and contain it, because the next step is Oblivion with all of this thing. It is like the end of everything. No, and it's not necessarily about the girls. It's about a bigger thing. And I think they'll get to that.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
She bleeds the Kyber.
That was fucking cool.
Once she found, we see the Kyber being bled. You know, what was in text is now in live action, and it was like, I honestly got shivers. I genuinely, and I feel like I should be taking the piss out of Raj at the moment, but over the Sith list, who always gets ridiculed for having goosebumps, but I genuinely had goosebumps. It was absolutely phenomenal to see that, and to see
it was expert acting too. It wasn't
phenomenal.
It wasn't just the special effects. It was the Chimere looking at her going, "Oh shit!"
You've got expert acting from Soul. You've got expert acting from Amanda. Osha, when she finds out, and he's pouring his heart out, and and then she just says, "Stop talking. I need to," and you see her. All I can call it is a fall. You see her fall to the dark side, and she kills the guy. But as he's dying, and we talked a little bit about this morning, his death was absolutely beautiful. And it's a weird thing to say, but the
Yeah.
acting in that death as the tear rolls down his face, and yes, he's dying, but he's more upset that he's lost her. Does that make sense?
Yeah. When he
Yes, he's
says
died.
when
Yes,
he says it's okay, and it's like that to me is what makes me feel sorry for him, and that his
yeah.
intentions weren't. He's not as bad as what everybody else makes him out to be. He is like he fucked up. Like I'm not like
Well,
apologizing for it, but
don't forget his last words before she starts before she starts force choking him. He says something on the lines of, "I did it because I," and then she stops him talking because she started to
yeah,
strangle him. And
yeah,
I'm convinced he was saying, "I did it because I love you," and I don't mean in any kind of sexual way or any kind
yeah,
of I mean it in terms of genuine love. And
yeah,
it's like the love of a friendship, the love of a parent, the love of a the love of a friend, the love of a parent, the love of someone that you spend time with. I genuinely think the guy loved her.
yeah.
Hence the reason why it's like, forgive yourself. It's okay. I'm okay to die. And the tears rolling down his face. It's like, fucking hell. This is Oscar
He's
worthy. It's absolutely superb.
yeah. He's like, I understand why you're upset. He's like, I stand by what I did,
Yeah.
not necessarily how I did it. I was trying to protect you. I know I fucked up. Like
Mm.
like we all haven't like we all don't know situations like this in the real world where people do things are blinded by their love and their desire to protect people. Like how many parents do we know that did like lied to their kids or whatever and like thinking they were doing the right thing,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
the kids grow to be adults and they're like, I could have handled it, and they're like, hey, I can't take it back. I know it's wrong, but I thought I
Well,
was
listen,
doing
I
the right
mean,
thing.
I'll give a less an example or a less. I wouldn't say it's less tragic because it's equally as tragic, but an example of that are parents that or adopted parents that decide to tell
Yeah,
their children at a later age that they're adopted. It's I know that from within my own family, my on my sister's side of the family. Her husband was adopted and wasn't told until quite
hmm
late, and it was kind of like it was it he should have been told earlier, and the girl should have been told earlier, or sorry, Osha should have been told earlier the truth of what happened. But and there's a real reason. There's a real reason why parents or protectors do that, um, and it usually is with the best intentions, but it's still wrong. Anyway,
it's still wrong. They're still
um,
wrong, but there's a humanity to it though, and
yeah,
that
yeah, oh
makes
no,
Star Wars feel more
absolutely,
real.
yeah, absolutely. Then on a funnier note, so 5 minutes prior to all this kicking off, we see the Jedi ship, which I think is the ship that you told me you want to see more of, the Jedi dagger ship, whatever it's called, the
I want to see more vectors, but I don't think that was a vector because
Vector. Oh, it wasn't a Vector.
carrying all those
Okay,
people.
fine.
A vector can only
Okay,
hold one person, I believe.
all right, I'll shut up then. Okay, point being is
Still
that
cool though.
ship flew over 5 minutes beforehand, and then we shoot to the team only just getting off the ship. It's like, Jesus, if this there's shit going down, you're not in any rush at all. What did you do? Have a cup of tea before you got off the ship? What the hell? I'm sure times it's not happening sequentially, but what was interesting and less funny was we find out then for sure that Venestra was Kamir's master, and he quickly puts the helmet on to block her out,
Yeah,
Magneto style. I thought that was wicked, actually getting that revelation, or what am I trying to say? That revelation and that recognition
yeah.
that he was still alive was pretty cool.
She's just like,
Story told there.
you. What the hell are you doing here?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
The thing I thought was
Um,
funny about the ship was when she was giving him commands. She's like, "All right, you two go do this. Everybody else set a perimeter." And then immediately after that, they're all still together. running
Yeah,
behind Basil. It's like,
yeah. What kind
that's
of
a
perimeter
shitty
is that?
perimeter. That's a terrible
That's
perimeter.
that's not a perimeter. That's called a straight line. It's. Yeah, I know what you mean though. Um, Again, it's the dorky guy. It's
Yeah.
Moog. Yeah, him.
Monk.
He doesn't take orders. He doesn't understand orders very well. Um, we find out how May escaped the core, which I thought was sweet and an amazing callback to Empire. She got sucked down one of those air vents, as Luke did when he dived off the gantry in his fight with Vader. I thought that was really really cool, and the corridor or the vent that they walked down looked very very Bespin-esque, which I thought was really really cool. And then obviously they all meet up. Also, they all meet up. Kamir finds them, and they decide to part their ways. And Kamir wipes her mind, which again was something we discussed this morning. And Josh asked the question, well, it seemed to be done quite simply. It wasn't as invasive as or as brutal as perhaps
Well, it's
someone like Kylo Ren.
because she accepted it because she wanted it.
Exactly, and exactly
Yeah.
that's the conclusion that we came to, was that, well, two things. One was that she accepted it, but also, oh, it was shot so beautifully. I mean, they used the nursery rhyme that they'd learned together, and when May forgets the lines, man, I was choking up. It's like, oh
I
my god.
genuinely thought when they were reciting that, I thought it was going to reverse. I'm shocked at what happened. I thought it was going to reverse it and they were going to merge. Like I thought that was going to be some like magic spell and they were
Yeah.
going to say it and like it was going to stop it and they were going to merge. And it's like, nope, she genuinely does not remember shit. And it's like,
That's not to
whoa.
say that the nursery rhyme, which, if you consider the witches chant, which was para one, para two, para many,
Yeah.
which was more of a religious chant or a witch's chant, and then you've got the nursery rhyme, which is the girls' version of that. There's
Yeah.
no reason why that nursery rhyme won't bring May back one day, if indeed there is a second series. She talks about her. Osha talks about, "I will find you," and she says, "Yes, I know you will." And there's no reason why that can't be reversed with a little bit of force, jiggery pokery, but and by leveraging that rhyme to really bring her memories back, which I strongly believe will happen one day. And then obviously, the whole thing kind of wraps up, and but Hestra throws Sol under the bus. I mean, she does the decent thing and says sorry to his dead body. Said sorry, sorry, my friend, but ultimately you're going to take the blame for all of this. And it's like, you're perpetuating a lie with another lie. You're making it worse.
Yeah.
You're making it worse. Didn't your parents teach you something? Didn't you learn anything in the Jedi Academy? You don't take a lie and then make it worse by veneering it with more lies and packing more and more lies on top of it. It's like,
But if you look at it,
an,
the root lie I think is coming with her and Chimere. Like she can't expose anything. So like all this other shit's happened
there.
but there's the root lie was the original sin probably back when whatever happened with her and Chimere, and she's been covering stuff up for ages, and so she has to do.
Which is the reason why there's no mention of the sisters in the explanation to the council, or to the council, or to the senators that convene. There's no mention of the girls. There's no mention of her wayward apprentice. It's all 100% on Sol, and I'm thinking, well, hey, there's another story there. Well done, Leslie. There's another story there. But secondly, it's like, do you not think that lying in the first place got you in this situation, or got the Jedi in this situation? No wonder the ambassador that we see, no wonder he thinks there should be some sort of investigation. It's like, because it's the right thing to do, because you can't be trusted. You lie. You lie. You abuse your power. Anyway, got to ask you a question. before two last things, I promise you. The Chancellor, we saw that species in being introduced in The Force Awakens. That kind of how can I put it? That kind of
The furry
what's like a
thing.
yak, yeah, the yak heady type of character, the bipedal yak heady type of person. Actually, shouldn't call it yak head, should we? I don't know what it is. Is that the new Bothan? Is that what the canon version of Bothans are now? I don't think they are they?
I don't think. I think that is one of those things that they are never going to reveal.
Oh,
Like,
okay, fine.
I think that almost to a point where I bet it's an internal joke. Like that's one of those things where like we can't like almost like naming Yoda's species. It's like, here's 5 things you're not allowed to do. You're not allowed to talk
Right.
about Bothans or show them. You're not allowed to give Yoda's a species and whatever. It's like it's almost a joke, but it's also real. It's like we can't. I don't think they'll. I think if they do that, I think they will make it a big deal for no particular reason. But I think that would just be they're not going to slide that one in.
Got it. But yeah, because for me they're almost too stocky and too cumbersome to be a Bothan. While having a canine oblique feline face were still very very agile and humanoid in their build. I just wondered. I'm sure there's an answer somewhere on Wikipedia or something, but I have no idea what they are. Anyway, that was interesting. And then we're on to we're back with Osha and Kamir, and we see them back at Kamir's bolt hole. They hold hands and fade to black. Typical, or very, very Empire Strikes Back Again-esque type of ending. Also, we think, because at that moment in time, I thought that was the end and roll credits. That's the end. There's a future together with them. They may well be at some point associated with Plagueis, which I've got a question about in a minute. But that was it. But no, Venestra then looks to get some advice from another cameo, being Yoda. And to your point, was it needed? And before we go into some of the questions I've still got and some of the loose ends, I will actually cover this. So my question to you about Yoda is, if Venestra confides in Yoda and tells him everything, then he's complicit for another 100 years. So
I don't think she tells him everything.
Right. Okay. I think that's a general sentiment that most people have got now. But I thought, Yoda's Yoda. Yoda's Yoda. I mean, the Jedi are assholes, but Yoda's Yoda, and he's
they're not going to make him be a complete asshole like that.
Okay, fine.
Like to me, in my opinion, like I think he's one of those things where like the characters they're not going to truly throw under the bus.
Unless Venestra doesn't realize he is Sith and she thinks he is just a wayward Jedi, in which case telling him the truth and everything that she perceives may not actually impact it. So either way, I feel better about it than I did when I was watching it this morning. I was thinking, hang on, Yoda, here I am thinking Ki-Adi is the major arsehole on the council. It's not you, is it? It's not you. And I think I've convinced myself, no, it's not.
But even if she doesn't mention that he's Sith, because I don't think she thinks he's Sith, I think even just including him in this, like depending on what she tells him, I feel like that puts a pretty big onus on Yoda to be involved in the situation. I think she's going to tell him enough. Like, okay, I won't go into my predictions of what I think is going to happen yet. I think she tells him some things, but not enough that this puts a huge spotlight on Yoda. Considering what we know about Yoda at this time, I think since Yoda's he's kind of off doing other things, and he's kind of on the side. He's not on like the main Jedi Council mission stuff. I think she's going to him because I think he's going to be the justification for her to go do things independently outside of the purview of the main council. I think that's why she went to him and is looking to him
And
for
I'm
guidance.
cool. And I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. But it does beg, one of the loopholes that we've almost sewn up the May and OSHA story, only to leave the Khmer story and what happened to him and his relationship and what happened between him and Vanestra as something that's blatantly hasn't been tied up and needs some further investigation at some point by one means or another. The second question I had, which again may well look to the future, is the reason why it makes sense that that character in the cave was Plagueis is that the tragedy of Darth Plagueis is that he learned how to create life, and who better to understand the rules of creating life from than the witches, or a witch that was created, or a descendant of a witch that was created by sorcery or by witchcraft. So that kind of makes sense that it is him. That kind of legitimizes that. The only thing I would say is that, and we mentioned this a couple of weeks back now, way before the Acolyte even started, was that, in legacy canon, the time, the Sith Order goes, is it Tiberius? Then not, is it Tiberius? Is it Tiberius that before Plagueis?
It
Tiberius, Plagueis, Sheev, and then so on and so forth. There's nothing actually on the silver screen and in new canon that suggests
Darth Tenebrous.
Tenebrous.
Okay.
There's nothing in official canon outside, in terms of proper canon, that suggests that Plagueis was actually Sheev's master. We've assumed it is, and it's still kept because of the EU or legacy. And if they do follow the legacy timeline or assumption that we've got, that means that Khmer and OSHA have to die.
I think Kymir's absolutely going to die. Like that loose end will be buttoned up probably by Vanestra. And okay, so we're gonna whole hog into this. Season 2 is 100%, in my opinion. It's coming.
I just realized Tiberius is actually James T. Kirk's middle name, isn't it? Sorry, yes. I just went off a tangent. Sorry, carry on.
Season 2 is in my book a 100% going to happen, but it's going to morph into a more like a MacGuffin race against time kind of thing. Like we're going to see multiple timelines moving, and it's going to bring Vanestra trying to track down Khmer, not realizing what he's a part of. Khmer and OSHA doing their thing and at some point in time, like Plagueis is going to confront Khmer, because I do think Plagueis is Kymir's master. I don't believe that Khmer.
No, the other way around, you mean? Khmer is sorry. Yeah, Plagueis is Kymir's master.
Yes, I believe that is. Yeah. Plagueis is Kymir's master. I think there's going to be a confrontation at some point with Plagueis and Khmer about OSHA, like, oh, are you trying to raise an apprentice to fucking come after me? Kymir's going to have to reveal, no, she's not really my apprentice, but she is, he's going to reveal the whole Virgins thing, to which now it's a race against time. Okay, how do we figure this out? Because Leslie Headland did talk about, oh, we're going to see what happens to Mother Coral. She's involved with the Night Sisters. It's like, we didn't see any of that. So that's what leads me. Oh, see, hold on a second. Oh, stop that. I forgot to put on the Do Not Disturb. So I think that's going to lead them to track down Mother Coral, who's now with the Night Sisters as like the MacGuffin. Plagueis is going to be doing that when Vanestra kind of confronts Chimere and that whole resolution happens, but it's going to be too late. Plagueis is going to get with the Night Sisters, and then everything we know going forward is going to happen, but it's going to be cut off to the point where like they never knew that Plagueis or anything existed. Like you just kind of see these dominoes fall. I don't know what's going to happen to May and Osha. I think like, I don't even, because Osha was like, no, I don't want to be your apprentice. But then just like the act of killing Saul, like, is she, I don't believe she truly wants to be trained. And I kind of got that vibe from her when he went to reach for her hand. Like she's still in this like realm of like, no, I'm pissed and I'm mad, but like, I have no intentions of being your apprentice and following this path.
Could be.
I don't know.
Could be.
In
other words, it was a means to an end to protect her sister. Yeah, no, it could well be. It could well be. I don't know. I think there's some truth in that because I still see two things. Osha and May, they're angry, but they're emotional. They're really emotional. They're not. They're really, really upset. There's a lot of grieving, if you like, going on, as opposed to outright savage anger. Secondly, when she ignited the blade, the Kyber couldn't work out whether it was green or red. Do you remember it was flashing green, then green, blue, then red? Yeah, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red. And that, bearing in mind that the Kyber reflects the wielder, the fact that I know she'd bled the lights at the Kyber to red, but the fact that there was a certain amount of initial confusion, shall we say, in the Kyber as to what it should be, suggests to me that she hasn't fully turned.
Yeah.
There's still good in her.
I could see their outcome being confronted with Venestra, like with the witches and Chimere, and then like the witches being like, you're not taking them, like, because Mother Coral being there, being like, you're not taking them. We'll take the sisters. You can have Chimere, like you can take him, and then like Venestra be like, done, deal, and then we see May and Osha whisper off into the wind with them. But yeah, I don't think she's fully evil. Like I think she had a moment of just strangling the ever living life out of Soul and feeling that anger. But I think like, because what else did they have to be mad at? Like, mission accomplished. You did it. Like you killed everybody involved. Like, and your anger was directed at Soul. He's gone. So what else is there? Who else are you going to get vengeance on? The rest of the Jedi? Like, that seems, they don't seem that lost or that driven by that. Especially since May was like, meh, whatever. Moving on.
Yeah. No, I'm with you, man. Do you think Leslie will be given the go ahead for her own second season, or do you reckon this will be picked up Mandoverse style in something parallel?
I think the Acolyte will have a season 2, but I think Leslie Headland will be executive producer. I think there'll be other. I don't think it'll be picked up as a larger thing.
Yeah, I do. Well, and the reason why is I'm saying that is because I hope for that, because I think that, I obviously I'm looking forward to Skeleton Crew, but again, we're at the Mando timeline, and we've got, again, we're stuck in this 60 to 80 year period, which is somewhat restricted. It's great to get new stories, and I am actually really looking forward to the idea of Goonies in space. But the idea of there being ancillary or parallel productions at different points of the timeline,
Mhm.
I'd be really excited for that. So if there was something else going on, that would be rather cool.
Yeah,
Rather cool.
I think the Acolyte isn't going to have as an expansive universe as the Mandoverse, but I do
No.
think that the entire purpose of this series and this kind of timeline is to set up it's the downfall of the High Republic and kind of the fruits coming to bear of the Jedi's hubris.
Yeah.
Like I think that's the sole purpose of this is like what were the things that trickled into motion that the Jedi started getting caught up in some of the situations that they'd spun together. Yeah, we're using May and Osha, but it's also showing pieces of Plagueis and then eventually Sheev and yada yada yada. But it's really kind of the start of the downfall of the Jedi. I think it's kind of sole intention.
Be interesting. I mean, we're only talking about 100 years, and let's say that, okay, 100 years before the Phantom Menace, how old do you reckon old Sheev Palpatine was in mid 40s, early 50s? Maybe a little bit
And
older. I mean, I know he looked older
yeah, I don't
in
think
the
he's
Phantom
alive.
Menace.
I don't think he's alive yet.
No, he's not alive yet. But what I'm trying to say is that I love the idea of the I'd be happy with something exclusive, Plagueis, for example, that took up to the time where he meets this young aspiring senator, and feels the ambition in him to take him under his wing. That would be quite cool. I'd be quite
So do you
interested in something like that.
so do you think so with the way canon's moving, do you think it'll be that way where he's already a politician, but then he is courted to the dark side, or do you think it'll be the other way around? Kind of like modern day politicians. It's like, oh, are they evil ahead of
I
time,
hope
and
it's the other way around.
then they go into
I hope
politics, or do they go into politics and become evil?
No, I hope it's the other way around. I hope he's, and I hate the word, but I hope he's been groomed since he was young, because the potential in him was identified young, a little bit, like a reverse Jedi, I guess.
I hope so too. I hope he is groomed on the evil side of things, and they're like, you could do great things. We're going to put you into politics, and then he just works his way up. I think that would be an even more satisfying
Sabotage, assassination, all that kind of juicy stuff that
yeah.
makes life interesting. Cool, man. No, I'm really stoked. I'm really happy with the way it ended. And like I said, and I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself again, I really respect it for what it is and what it's trying to do, more so than what we actually saw on the screen, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, very happy, very, very happy, and a nice way to have spent the summer.
I'm very happy with it too. The thing I like about it the most is that it took chances. It took chances. Yeah, it still had some Star Wars cameos. It still had some tie-ins. It still had some this, that, and the other. But this is probably some of the most refreshing Star Wars that we've had in a while. And I like a new timeline. I like taking risks. I like doing things a little bit differently. And I want more of that. And I hope we continue down this path.
And the sick puppy in me, and again, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. The sick puppy in me has really, really enjoyed, with perverse satisfaction, the amount of folk that are getting unnecessarily upset about the smallest things that actually in this story were actually meaningless. So, for example, Kia D, did we need him? Not at all. Did he contribute anything to the story? Not at all. As he didn't to Phantom Menace and the Clone Wars and the Revenge of the Sith as well. He didn't contribute a damn thing.
Yeah,
he was a cockhead in the background. Said a few stupid things. So I love the fact that an awful lot of folk have been venting their spleens on something so irrelevant, and the trolling, like I said, the rather professional trolling or subtle trolling that Leslie has done, I thought is actually delicious. Really, really good stuff.
And all on that same note of like, I like the fact that they're bringing more of a human storytelling element to it. Via that, it's like, yeah, just because somebody said something, it doesn't matter because people get things wrong. People in this show, people actively lie to try to cover their ass. It doesn't mean they're evil. I don't think Vernestra is an evil person. I think people just do stupid shit. It's like real life. You get caught up, you lie to cover your ass. Things spiral out of control, you make mistakes, and it just ends up getting worse. Like that's a human characteristic. We're not all purely good or purely evil, and to show that in a universe like Star Wars,
it certainly makes the Jedi more interesting.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. It makes them a heck of a lot more interesting. The idea of these guys being stoic, pure,
masquerading as a religion.
Pure people that can't do any wrong. It's a bit dull. It's a bit boring, really. I mean, the idea, investigating their frailties and their issues and their mistakes, I think is good stuff. Really good stuff.
Well, who am I supposed
to? All right, buddy.
Who am I supposed to root for? I don't know. We'll find out. The everyman. That's who you root for.
Yeah, exactly. So we're back to resuming normal service next week.
Yeah, I should probably watch her read something between now and then.
Yeah. But we are working on a few things, as you know, and we've got a stack of I was about to say stack of guests lined up, but we've got a stack of guests that we'd like to invite that hopefully will say yes. But we've got a stack of topics that we wanted to cover. You got a little bit of a snip. You got a little bit of a hint of that when I was away, and when Sean spoke with Chris and Ed about their fascination and their on the crafting side of things, and there's a few other subjects like that we want to talk to a few people about, and both just the two of us together as well. So we'll try and keep it interesting. There is other stuff going on as well that I'd like to talk to Sean about, such as my thoughts on the latest blockbusters on Prime and, of course, on HBO. Mm-hmm. So we'll try and keep it interesting until we can start ramping up towards Skeleton Crew. And, of course, at some point we need to start doing some serious planning rather than sitting on our hands about what we're going to do in Japan as well next year. We should start talking about the road to Celebration. So lots of interesting stuff to talk about in the weeks to come.
Start planning our cosplays.
Sorry, my headphones are playing up. Ain't gonna happen, buddy. Right, I will. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for being patient with me being away. Thank you for listening to our usual diatribe of how we feel about this latest series. Look after each other. Take care. Lots of love to you all. Sean, why don't you take us out, mate?
I can do that. Thank you, everybody, for listening. It's been fun talking about the Acolyte. If you know where to reach us, justchillin.com. If you want to send a voicemail or email in, you can find links to all that stuff there. Feel free to leave us reviews on your podcatcher of choice or not. But yeah, we do appreciate all the love and support. And until next week, it's been fun.
Bye.
Bye.